Okay, so I'm Grasswalker, and welcome to this video about Wabbajack. Now, what is Wabbajack? You may have already heard of it, but it is basically a program that will help you install a Skyrim mod list that is already created by somebody or a team of people that are much, much, much better than you at making Skyrim mod lists. And you can get up to 1,000 mods fully functionally working, all perfectly set up, barely any issues, very few crashes, all made by a professional team of devs, and you just click like 3 buttons, follow some instructions for an hour, and it's done, and it's set up. And now what it isn't is it isn't idiot proof. You can break things, and you will break things if you go away from the instructions, you don't listen to them, and just don't do that. Like, Skyrim modding is usually so difficult. It takes hundreds of hours of testing and compatibilities and setting up like little Xedit patches and stuff, and it is just a nightmare. And there's loads of tools. You've got your choices between the mod managers, mod organizer, Nexus, Vortex. You've got different optimizers, just so many things to choose from that if you have no idea what you're doing, it's overwhelming. If you have a bit of an idea what you're doing, it's overwhelming sometimes. And even if you're like considerably experienced in making mods, it can still be a nightmare and take a lot of time. And Wabbajack just takes out all of the issues. It just solves so many problems. So this is just their website. It's straight up wabbajack.org. You can find it on Google. Pretty much any Google search for this should bring it up. If not, you're doing something wrong. You can go into the gallery, and then you'll pick the game that you're looking for. So, for example, I only really care about Skyrim at the minute, so I'd filter it by Skyrim Special Edition. It's the one I want to play. And there are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 mod packs for this. And there's, I think, extras if you show the not safe for work ones, but I'm not going to do that because I'm not risking my sponsorship money just to put them on here. But there are some extras if that is what floats your boat. And they're all made by different people that are trying to do different things. So, for example, the Elder Souls is a very dark and gothic and terrifying and scary playthrough of the Elder Scrolls, where if you die, it steals some stuff from Dark Souls, where you respawn somewhere else and then you have to go get your stuff back. It's kind of cute. I like the idea of it. I haven't tried it or played it, but it's really interesting. And then you've got something like the Visual Overhaul, where all he does is make Skyrim look amazing with no gameplay changes whatsoever. So if you're just a modder that's looking to build your own gameplay experience, but you're too lazy to figure out the texture mods, this guy's done all of the textures and the meshes, and everything looks good, and all you do is you put your stuff on top of that. So it's like a compromise. It can save you so much time researching the different texture mods, and there's just a bunch. The one that I opted for that sold itself best to me was Living Skyrim. The reason Living Skyrim sold itself best to me is because it had no qualms about telling people that if your computer's too weak, just like fuck off, we don't care about you, you're not strong enough, leave. And I like that because I have a decent PC, so I'm not worried about performance hits, and I appreciate that there are people that have powerful PCs making a mod list for powerful PCs that just have sacrificed nothing. It's straight up like 150 gigabytes. There are over 950 mods in this list, and the way that it sold itself best is the install guide is pretty well structured. So you just follow them. Like, first you need to wipe all the folders, blah, blah, blah. Then you need to get your Wabbajack set up, blah, blah, blah. And it's all stepped out, and it's really well done. And I had no issues. It's installed, it's working for me. I just haven't started playing it yet because I'm recording this straight away. But I've got the game, it opens, it runs, you can make characters, you can run around, I can do the mod commands like COC Whiterun, and I can teleport all around, run around, and nothing bad's happened yet, but I haven't done any actual gameplay. But the fact it boots is enough to know that it's at least somewhat functional, and all the MCMs load up, and you can go around the map a little bit. Like, if it was going to break, or if it was horrifically broken, like the mod lists I always end up making, it would have crashed on launch, or crashed on game creation, or crashed as soon as you leave the alternate start first room. It seems relatively stable. Like, I'm flying around with my speed modded to 10, and I'm not crashing instantly, so it's relatively stable at least. Whether or not I'll come back and I'll do a particular review, because this is more about Wabbajack, the program, rather than Living Skyrim. when I come back in a bit after playing it, I'll be able to speak with a more educated background on living Skyrim 2, but Wabbajack installed it with basically no issues. I booted up the Wabbajack exe, I pointed it at the one that I wanted, I put the install directories in, I clicked download. I had to pay like $2 for a Nexus Premium account, else the download speed would be horrifically poor. And you get RSI from clicking yes, I accept to download 1,000 times. If you pay the $2, it takes that automatically. And then I just left it overnight. Woke up in the morning, came down, it said, all right, we've got 3 errors. There's 3 missing files. I asked on the Discord server, I said, all right, I'm missing these 3 files. And the helpful people on Discord server said, this one's here, this one's there, and this one's here. And then I picked up those files, put them in the folder, and it's done. It's done. You just had to get Wabbajack, launch it, pick the one you want, which took me 2 hours to decide between the 13. Because I'm not going to install 100 gigabytes of stuff, like axe the download for the whole street. I'm not going to do that before I figured out which one I want to do first, or which one I feel like suits me best. So it took me 2 hours to narrow down all the lists and figure out which one I wanted to play with. That took longer than the install process, because me leaving it overnight and going to sleep, I don't count that as time I've spent. I didn't have to do anything. And then me just following the 20-step guide very carefully and not missing any steps, that did take a couple hours, and I hit a few bumps, but then you ask in a Discord server really nicely and politely, and you get the help and you thank them, and then it works. And it works. One thing that sold me the most about living Skyrim was this. It's, I think, the only one that I found that has an actual fully set up complete mod list of everything in it categorized. So it talks about these are the animations, these are the audios, these are the body mods, and these are the Easter egg mods, and it just does all of the 900 mods. If you want to find this, you can do this yourself. Just go on Google, search Wabbajack, click the Living Skyrim 2 list, and then scroll down to the bottom where it says the mod list database. Just follow it. 815 mods. That's crazy. My Skyrim was on its teetering edge, the Jenga tower about to collapse at 200. And I had issues. I fucked up some of the installs. I overwrote some folders I shouldn't. I installed some mods that conflicted with other mods, and then they were already in there. And by the time I realized they conflicted badly, I was already a couple 100 hours into my file, and I didn't want to restart. This shouldn't be an issue for these, because these are very carefully selected and patched together by a team of professionals. Well, not semi-professionals, semi-professional volunteer dev team, but there's an actual team doing it. It's crazy. For any mod, though, you can find everything that's in it by going on the list, and then you click this little archive search here. So, for example, we'll go on Kaisel, and you click this, and then it shows you everything that's in it. So you might think, oh, I can't live without quality world map. And it's in there. So you're like, okay, this suits me. So if you're trying to figure out which mod list you should pick, I would think of 20 mods that you think define how you play. So for me, one is alternate start. I would not be able to play this game without the starting in the little alternate start cupboard and picking the start that I want. It's that little out of character, set up all your menus, go to the statue, decide who your character is, and then you start playing the game. I like that little character creation session for it. This doesn't have that, so maybe that isn't for me. But maybe you want a big expansion mod, like Dark End. This doesn't have that. Maybe you want something like Falscar. This doesn't have that. So if you're the kind of person that wants... actually, I misspelled Falscar, to be fair. If you're the kind of person that wants that stuff, you know that Kaisel isn't for you. And the reason that Kaisel isn't for you with stuff like Falscar is because it's adding completely additional worlds. And the whole shtick of Kaisel is that it's this extremely lore-friendly, very carefully curated list of stuff that none of it breaks the law, none of it's out of the world. So Falscar is another world. It just doesn't mesh with what this author is trying to do. So just read through. What I did was I went on the gallery, I opened all of them, and I went through them one by one, and I read everything about it, and I'm like, okay, that's what he's going for. Is that what I want? Yes or no? And if it's definitely something I don't want to play. I closed the tab. And then I ended up with like 7 tabs after the first run, then like 3 tabs after the last run, and then it was between Elder Souls, the one that I picked, Living Skyrim, and I think the Phoenix one. And I just ended up picking the Living Skyrim one because it had the best Google Docs setup and like justification for everything that it was doing. It just gave the most information about, and it was the only one to have made this. So if you made something like this that takes a lot of time and effort, and you've got like a little team of devs doing that, and they're all caring about it, that sold it the most to me. That doesn't mean it's the right choice. That doesn't mean it's the best choice. It just means I thought I would try it. I don't even know if it's right for me yet. You might want to pick a different one. That's totally fine. You find the one that works for you. You get your Wabbajack, you open it up, you pick the directories, you click install, you go to bed, you wake up, follow instructions for like 2 hours, and you're ready to go. If you have a bigger hard drive than me, I only have like 500 gigs on my SST, which sounds like a lot, but when Living Skyrim wants 200 gigs of that, and Windows wants 50 gigs of that, like, I'm already out of room. So if you've got a bigger hard drive, you can install 2 or 3 at the same time, and you can try them all. And you can see which one works best for you, or you can try them one at a time, or you can do what I'm doing, where I've picked one that I think will be best for me, and I'm going to try it, and if it's good enough, I'll keep it. And if it's not good enough, I'll delete it, and I'll try a different one whilst I still have my month of Nexus. But, like, it has never been so easy. I've never had this experience. Normally, my modding experience is weeks of trolling the Nexus, trolling Reddit threads, trolling review forums, trolling mod of the month, and just clicking every month since Skyrim released in freaking 2011. Just trying to figure out, alright, what do I want? And then trying to install it myself, and sometimes messing up and sometimes breaking things. And sometimes mods will install correctly, and Xedit and everything will claim that everything is perfect. And then you get in game and you find a bug, but you don't find it until you're hundreds of hours in and you're already attached to playing your character. And stuff like that shouldn't be as much of an issue with this as it is if you did it yourself. And that's what I'm hoping on, and that's what I'm going to find out. But this is my video of the first impression of using Wabbajack and basically working with it to install a mod list. And it was so easy. Ridiculously easy. I've never had it so easy to just, like, 2 buttons, go to sleep, wake up, follow just, like, a small list of instructions. I followed longer lists of instructions for single mods in the past. This is probably going to be the future of modding. One thing I think that it should do, if it wants to go full future of modding, is that Wabbajack should separate the mod lists into categories. So some people should assemble texture overhauls, such as how someone has already done that. If I can actually scroll and find it. It was a Skyrim Special Edition once that will knock it down. So someone's already done this a little bit. So he's done the visual overhaul, and then someone else could do the gameplay overhaul, and then someone else could do like the character creation overhaul, and there could be little categories, and then it's like you pick and choose modular style, and like if they do it correctly, they shouldn't leave their little bubble. So the guy that's done the texture overhaul shouldn't be incompatible with any of the gameplay overhauls, because none of the pieces should ever touch. Shouldn't. Maybe that's asking for too much. Maybe it's just a hopeful thing. Maybe it's just where Wabbajack is kind of new, that might be coming in the future. It's already planned. But I think it would be cool if a bunch of people did different areas that was their specialty, rather than someone's trying to do the entire Skyrim game and then there's no room for customizability whatsoever. But that does exist a little bit, because if you do want your own gameplay experience and you have particular mods that you must have, pick the visual overhaul, put them in yourself, and try not to break anything. See how it goes. But for me, I'm just going to try the Living Skyrim one. It seems like the highest spec one. It's definitely the largest. None of the others exceed 110 gigabytes. This one's 150. It's got like 1,000 mods shoved all together in it. I'm excited to play it. I'm probably going to do some videos on it so that you can experience it a bit with me, and it'll be a nice throwback. This channel began with Skyrim. It was one of the first things. It was actually me talking about my mod lists. So it's a little bit cute to go back on that now after 3-4 years later. But thank you guys for joining me. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.